Despite the Coyotes' low spot in the standings, there are quite a few players having career years. I'm going to talk about one on today's episode of Locked On Coyotes.
Your Locked On Coyotes, your daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Locked On Coyotes. I am your host, Carl Pavlock. Before we get started, I do want to mention that this episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sports, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. You can visit fanduel.com/lockedon today to get started. And I do want to thank you for making today's episode of Locked On Coyotes your first listen every day. Well, not this episode every day, but you know what I mean. I am by myself today. Robin is unfortunately doing some moving, but wanted to talk because there are quite a few Coyotes players who are traveling under the radar, who are just now starting to get, some attention. I saw recently that NHL.com tweeted out that Barrett Hayton and Clayton Keller were a dynamic duo. They have been playing extremely good together, so it fits. Keller was just named the first star of the week by NHL. Love to see that, but also love to see some, attention going to Barrett Hayton because he is having just a really good year. Um, Barrett Hayton is one of the draft picks the Coyotes have that I remember being very invested in. And it was also done in a more contrarian reasoning in the beginning because a lot of people were calling for Philip Zadina to be drafted by the Coyotes. In general, I seem like, I could see the fit. The Coyotes have always needed offense. They have always needed someone to score. Philip Zadina was, for a long time projected to be that player, a player who could, generate offense. I actually remember people saying that he would be able to make the jump to the NHL right away, which I found ridiculous because it was. He didn't make the jump to the NHL right away. He is still struggling to find like a consistent groove in the NHL. And Barrett Hayton, this is his coming out year. So I want to talk about him, especially now because there is that connection going all the way back to the draft. And yeah, I just have enjoyed following him. Barrett Hayton spent quite a bit of time in the AHL, and there was a lot of talk about him being a bust. A lot of people who, don't. I wouldn't say the these were Coyotes media outlets talking about it. Like Craig Morgan, PHNX wasn't calling him a bust. On Five for Howling, we weren't calling him a bust, but a lot of the outside people didn't really see Hayton as a piece of the Coyotes' long-term future. I thought it was still possible because I thought that, he's been developing on a steady path. It's slower than a lot of people expected, but not unnecessarily slow. Like he is only 22 years old. That is still extremely early. I do think that there is a potential stigma that develops when you're a top 5 draft pick and you're not making the jump right away and playing meaningful hockey. But I don't really feel like that should be applied in most cases. Certainly, there are some outliers who you expect to make the leap right away, but most you need some time to develop. And Hayton developed. He developed in juniors. He developed on the Canadian World Junior tournament, which was really big for getting some attention for him. But after a while, if you're not hitting, they think you're a bust. But people in the know, people like Robin and myself. I'm sure we talked about it before the season. Uh, Mike covers the Calgary Flames a lot, but also the Coyotes. He mentioned on Twitter a few times that Hayton was likely going to be the Coyotes' top line center this season at some point, because it wasn't going to be Travis Boyd the entire time. I thought Boyd had great chemistry with Nick Schmaltz and Clayton Keller last season. To start the season, it wasn't really the case as much. Travis Boyd has surprised me. He is playing strong away from Keller and Schmaltz, but he wasn't clicking in the same way that I thought he would. He was last season, and there was the expectation among a few people, especially people who pay attention to the Coyotes, that at some point Barrett Hayton was going to get a look as the number one center because he's your first round center from the 2018 draft. You give him a look as your top center, especially if he's progressing well. And he finally got that. This season, we are seeing Barrett Hayton as a number one center. And I have to say, he is looking extremely good. But I'm going to talk about that and more. But first, a few messages from our sponsors. The midway point of the NBA season is here, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel. It's America's number one sportsbook. Because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000, that's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. You can download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on anything from the money line to point scores or threes drained. I know everyone I'm following who is following the Suns knows that things are just crazy right now. And I think that is something where, take a look if you're interested. Bet on the Suns, bet against the Suns. It's definitely going to have quite a few options at FanDuel. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with same game parlays. So don't miss the chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to fanduel.com/lockdown. That's fanduel.com/lockdown to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. And we're back. Carl Pavlock, Locked On Coyotes, talking about Barrett Hayton. So Hayton named part of a dynamic duo with Clayton Keller. I don't know why. It's probably because I've read a lot of Batman comics, but that just sounds very significant. It feels like if I needed something good to say about Hayton and I didn't have much, because I'm going to have plenty to say about Hayton at the end of the year, one-time dynamic duo from the NHL. It means nothing, but it is definitely, an underlying acknowledgement of Barrett Hayton and Clayton Keller. Keller as a over point per game player with the Coyotes, and we've seen from a Coyotes, knock on wood. I like that he's being acknowledged too, but we had a whole other episode about Clayton Keller and talking about Barrett Hayton. The reason that they were named that was because they have done so much together. In the span of March 6th to March 12th, Keller had 4 goals, 5 assists. Hayton, 3 goals, 5 assists. Just great. They work really well with Nick Schmaltz. They work really well with Brett Ritchie, if I'm being honest. It's a good combination. Hayton seems more comfortable as a center, and also just playing with Keller has unlocked his offensive ability, which is definitely, tracking Barrett Hayton was a point of concern for a fair amount of time. I do remember going back to his juniors days, there was, thought going to be a really good defensive center, but not necessarily good, point generator. I know with Sault Ste. Marie, 2017 to 2018, he had 60 points in 63 games. Then next season, in 39 games, 26 goals, 40 assists, 66 points in 39 games. That's what you want to see in a player. Um, so yeah, he is finally exploding offensively for the Coyotes. This season, 13 goals, 20 assists. Those are both career highs in 67 games. Last season, 60 games, 10 goals, 14 assists, 24 points, which is, for your first real full-time NHL season, I guess that's respectable, but definitely better numbers now and better numbers recently. He had a 4-point night against the Minnesota Wild. He comes into today's game. I'm recording before the Calgary game, riding a 4-game point streak, 8 points in those last 4 games, which is just love to see it. And he is getting points on the power play, but he is also scoring a lot 5-on-5. I think that is important for the Coyotes to have like good 5-on-5 scoring. It's just a really good place for Barrett Hayton. I hope he continues to find success on this area because right now it's just all clicking. Especially with Schmaltz being hurt, having Hayton there to like continue to have one of those skill guys to lean on, a player who plays well with, you love to see that, especially with rumors that Nick Schmaltz may be on the way out. I have been of the opinion that you shouldn't replace or you shouldn't trade Schmaltz until you have someone who plays as well as he does with Clayton Keller. And I don't think Hayton is there yet, but he potentially could be. The chemistry between Nick Schmaltz and Clayton Keller is unreal, but I do think that Hayton could potentially be along the same lines. I'm going to talk a little bit more about what we have for the future of Barrett Hayton, but another quick message from our sponsors. Are you looking for a delicious treat but don't want all the fat and calories? Then you gotta try a Built Bar. We've got you through the holidays, and I know my goal is to just eat healthier. I am trying to eat better breakfast because first meal of the day, don't want it to go wrong. And a Built Bar is a really nice addition to that. And what makes a Built Bar so good? Well, for starters, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. But they're not bad for you. They're only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and a whopping 17 grams of protein. And now you don't need to wait around to get a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering on Built Bars on Built.com, but now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. You can head to your nearest Walmart today, walk over to the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. And we're back. Carl Pavlock, Locked On Coyotes, talking about Barrett Hayton. Talked about the past, talked about the present. I want to talk about the future, where I think Barrett Hayton is going to be with the Coyotes for the foreseeable future. And it is absolutely tough to say. The Coyotes are in their rebuild situation. They are going to be acquiring a lot of young prospects. But I do think that Barrett Hayton is in a really good position to just cement his place with the Coyotes. I know a lot of people look at Logan Cooley, the season he's having. There are rumors that he is going to be signing his ELC after the season's over, coming up with the Coyotes. That would be phenomenal if it happened. But if it doesn't, or, even if it does, Barrett Hayton still has a spot with the Coyotes. He is on a pretty team-friendly deal. He has 1 year left at $1.775 million. and he will be a restricted free agent when it is done, which, solid position for the Coyotes. I'm not sure if he's going to have arbitration rights, close the page, but, even if he does RFA, you can usually get to sign a good contract, team friendly deal. It's the thing about RFAs. Um, Also, we have seen that Bill Armstrong isn't afraid to lock in players long term. The Lawson Krause deal was, you know, a good solid deal. And if Hayton finishes off the season strong and, does really good to start the next season, um, if they don't choose to re-sign him in the offseason, like I could see him getting a 5-year Kraus type deal. We still don't know too much about how long Hayton is going to last, but he is playing strong, effective hockey. He is the type of player that the Coyotes could really use, which is a center. They need centers. They need lots of centers. It would be very interesting to see, like, kind of Barrett Hayton go from a top line center to a third line, just a very stacked at center Coyotes with Logan Cooley, potential pick from this year's draft, and then Hayton. That's 3 extremely dangerous lines that you can just make other teams pay with. So I can see Hayton sticking around. Just he's a young guy. There's going to be a place for him. Um, we talked briefly about this, I think, last episode. I am not necessarily a fan of immediately starting Cooley with Clayton Keller, just because Keller plays some tough assignments. You kind of want to protect Cooley a little bit. Don't throw him into the deep end with the Sharks. Although that analogy doesn't work. He could probably play top line duties against the Sharks. But yeah, protect him a little bit. Make sure your rookies don't get absolutely destroyed. And in the meantime, you just have Hayton, you have Keller as that 1-2 punch. You have Schmaltz if he stays with the team. Potentially, like, throw Gunther up there. He knows a little bit more about what it's like to play in the NHL. So by all means, like, see how he plays with Clayton Keller and Barrett Hayton. It would be a very young line, but it would also be a very, very good line. It is very much a change in coaching style that we're even having this conversation. Like, Barrett Hayton as a 22-year-old center for the Coyotes. Number one, last time I think that was really the case, it was Martin Hansel. And it feels like lifetimes ago. I remember when, like, the idea of putting Schmaltz and Keller together was seen as a dangerous idea. And I think that they were older than Hayton is now. But he has just come in there. He's getting top work. You'll love to see it. We are going to need to do, like, an analysis of just what the Coyotes have been through, because I do wonder if John Chayka doesn't get enough credit for the good things that he did for the team. Like, definitely had some misses, but Hayton, solid pickup. I will defend Barrett Hayton. I have done it in bad times, and now it's very easy to do. I haven't heard anyone complaining about Barrett Hayton, and that's great. There's no more talk about him being a potential bust, which, let's be real, if that was able to change so quickly in one season, like, it wasn't even a possibility that he was a bust. Anyways, that's going to do it for me. It's a bit of a shorter episode. Just me talking about one player. Meandered a little bit, but still, not too much that one person can say. I do want to thank you for listening, though. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed me getting to brag a little bit about a good Coyotes prospect. I know I'm preaching to the choir, and I didn't pick him, but it is definitely good to have quite a few like good players on the Coyotes, up and coming players. Like whenever we think about the rebuild, I do wonder how much we're ignoring the prospects who are just coming up. Like the fact that Hayton and Michelli had are having two really good seasons, and last season they were kind of an afterthought. Like that kind of makes me kind of wonder what we're going to be seeing next year because season's almost over. So time to start planning for the next one. But I do want to thank you for making Locked On Coyotes your first listen today. Now, for your second listen, check out Game to Game NHL. Every moment, every top performance, every result, Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across the NHL with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. You can follow Game to Game on Locked On NHL, available on the Audacity app and Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. You could also follow Locked On Coyotes at LO_Coyotes. Like, subscribe on YouTube. That's the site. Do all that. Do all the YouTube stuff. You can follow me personally. I am the managing editor of the soon-to-be independent 5 for Howling. That's the word 5, number 4, word Howling. So definitely feel free to check me out there. Otherwise, hope you're staying safe out there. Hope you're enjoying the very nice Arizona weather. And don't forget to howl on.